Welcome to episode 71 of the Lovoni and Sarah podcast. Each week we discuss holistic approaches to weight loss and well-being as we work at improving our own health and wellness. We share our stories about what we've learned through experience and research in the hopes we encourage others to improve their health too. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah, and on today's episode, we're talking about personalizing your diet. There's so much conjecture about what, when, and how to eat for optimal health and weight loss. It's overwhelming. We believe one way of eating doesn't fit all. We're talking about crafting a diet suited to you that becomes part of a healthy lifestyle change and not about deprivation and unrealistic expectations. But before we dive in, let's talk about how our mindful challenge last week is going and what we've done. Lovoni, do you want to update us? How's it going?
Sure. Now, first of all, I have to say I knew I was completely inept at focusing. So,
Yes.
and more about multitasking. I was just like, oh, I'm the multitasking queen.
hmm
Getting the tasks finished quickly was all I could think about.
hmm
And for that, I felt like I had to be across them all.
Like a
But that's
whirlwind.
not the case. Like a whirlwind, like a friggin' tornado, which is what I've been called
Yeah.
before. But anyway, so I discovered this, just led me into a stressful frenzy, really.
Yeah.
Um, and I did achieve it all, but I would find by the end of it, my back was hurting because that all that
hmm
tension,
Tension.
my head was a bit like a roller coaster. So I've just been aware of practicing mindfulness.
hmm
So I know, like, it's not something that's just going to all of a sudden I
No.
can do
And
it.
then once
I
that's
have to
it's
keep
done.
pulling
Yeah.
myself back because it's so easy to fall back into that
Yeah, of
routine.
course. It's what you've done for a long, long time.
Yeah, my life pretty
Yeah.
much. Um, but what I found when I do practice it, it's just things are done in an orderly, calm manner. Yeah.
Feels nicer.
And I actually think it takes less time,
Yeah.
surprisingly.
hmm
But it's definitely something I'm going to constantly work on. And then, also the mindfulness with eating as well. It's not just a mindfulness about what your actions are, but it's about what I'm thinking. Am I
hmm
thinking like bad thoughts about myself, like berating myself?
hmm
Um, and so it's about all of those things and just being aware that I'm doing it, or if I'm, back in the past reliving something that's not very nice.
hmm
Yeah, so going to keep on
It's
practicing it.
working. So for the
Yeah,
first week,
because
so far so good.
yeah, so when I do it, I can feel it. It feels
hmm
good. So
That's
yeah,
great.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you?
I sort of set the goal of trying to have some dedicated quiet time that I'd class as mindful time, as well as being mindful in everything that I'm trying to do each time I'm doing it. So that's going really, really well. And I've really noticed a difference. But I did set some time aside on Sunday morning. I got up early, took my coffee outside, spent
Nice.
2 or 3 minutes just setting up the little seating area so that it was really comfy and cozy. And I just sat out there with no phone, no sort of music, nothing, just sat there and drank my
Just
coffee. So
thoughts.
yeah, that's the only time I've managed to sort of fit that in this week so far, but that was great. And it just means that I'll make sure I keep doing that more and more often. But also that mindful approach to being really aware of what I'm doing each time I'm doing it is definitely, like you
Hmm.
said, definitely helping. Just slows everything down. And like you said, I'm amazed that I'm still getting the things done. I look up and go, right, I'm panicked that I'm not going to have enough time left to do everything else. I'm like, oh, I've got loads of time. That didn't take me anything as
Right.
long as I thought. So the chunking of time seems better too. But yeah, it's
Definitely
definitely
something
worth.
to work on.
It
I'm
is.
going to keep doing it. Yeah.
It is.
So in doing this whole personalized diet,
hmm
personalizing your diet,
hmm
like there's two different things. So there's the personalization of a diet where you can go and pay a company
Right.
to do it. And they test your various levels, like your blood glucose
Right.
and your cholesterol and all that sort of thing. We're talking about being able to do this yourself,
Like
not
lifestyle.
test
Yeah.
your blood levels, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like a lifestyle thing that you don't have to pay for. It's more about curating a diet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stealing Sarah's
Like that
word.
word.
Yeah, I like that word. But it's a curating a diet that fits lifestyle, budget, what people's tastes,
Mm.
time,
Preferences, yeah.
um, and or yeah, their preferences, but also, what they can and can't eat, because some people, can't eat things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's listening to your body too, because that's something that I think we don't do. We
Yeah.
do a lot of mindless eating,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's all about that. But I just wanted to set those two things apart,
Yeah.
because if that makes sense, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so many people feel like they have to pick a diet.
Yeah,
You
well,
know
it's
what I
like a
mean?
program, but then that's because they're picking like a program of what's going to, like we talked
Right.
about before, start and then end, and then
Yeah.
that's not a lifestyle approach at all, is it? It's just something because what happens when it does end. So,
Right. Yeah. So they, and I know some people like a plan, but you can make your own plan
mhm.
if you have a clear understanding of, and a realistic. That's the thing. You need to be
Yeah, so I
realistic
I
about
wrote that
this.
down as I can fall into having like an idealistic intent about how I want to eat, or because I've watched how others do it, and so this little
Right.
image in my head goes, oh, I'm going to do that, and you just think, hang on a minute, you've literally seen a snapshot of what someone's doing.
Yeah.
How are they really, living their life?
Mm.
How are they really eating? Are they really not eating a huge amount, but they're just eating that at that moment? So that doesn't mean just on social media. That can be in anyone that you're
Right.
come into contact with. You look at how they're choosing to eat, and then you just sort of think, oh, I want to do that, but that's not really necessarily the way that it actually is for all of the time, is it? So I'm guilty of that. I look at this idealistic picture and think, oh,
Mm.
I'll do that then, and then it's not sustainable because it doesn't suit what I like to eat. It doesn't suit my lifestyle pattern. It doesn't suit actually the long-term plan that I'm going to have to work on. And we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this before. I've got all of the knowledge now with regards to what to eat, what it's going to do for me, what it's going to do for my mental health. We've done so much research and conversation
Mm.
around it. The thing is now tailoring it to actually suit what I need and how it's
Right.
actually going to work. So I think that's the trick, isn't it? And I was going to give you an example of someone, this was years and years ago, but I worked in an office, really large corporate office. And there was a guy quite a lot older than me, and he put himself on a diet. And by that, I mean, as in a weight loss diet. And I was absolutely amazed because do you know what he did? He had 2 chocolate bars for his lunch every single day. And I looked and thought, what are you doing? That's not a weight loss plan. But what I now look at it and go, but do you know what he was doing? He was tailoring it to suit what he needed for his life because
I
he had a
don't recommend this, people,
no, no,
though.
but what I'm
It's
saying is he had a really sweet tooth, right? So
right.
that meant that he had a quick lunch because he was really, really busy. He hit
Mm-hmm.
his sweet tooth need because that meant for the days, like he knew he'd had something. He knew exactly how many calories he was eating. Because on the back of the
Right.
bar, it said 200 and 198 or whatever. So he had 400 calories for his lunch or more, whatever it is. And
Mm-hmm.
then he then said he had a healthy breakfast and a healthy evening meal. And it kind of hit all those
Right.
ticks all
Right.
those boxes. But you still think in the traditional format of thinking, well, you can't possibly have 2 chocolate bars a day and then still consider yourself on a weight loss plan.
If you're in a calorie deficit.
However, exactly. And
Yeah.
exactly, I'm not advocating having 2 chocolate bars for
No.
lunch. But what I'm trying to say is
Sounds good,
actually
though.
people, I could think of the ones I'd have. People, that's someone who created and flexed what suited his needs, and
Right.
it
Right.
it blooming worked. He lost loads of weight. And I looked and thought, well, if someone had said to you, I eat chocolate for lunch and I've lost weight, you'd be thinking, what on
Right.
earth? That's not right.
Oh,
So
crap.
just
Yeah.
just as a bit of an idea, just a suggestion or an example, rather, I should say, that's how you can really listen to what you want your lifestyle to be, what suits you. Now, let's
Mm.
think of something which is a little bit nutritionally beneficial other than chocolate, maybe.
Right. But I mean,
But
chocolate can certainly fit into
you don't have
a
to not
diet.
have it. Yeah,
You don't have to
exactly.
not have it. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
don't necessarily have it for lunch. Well,
Hmm.
not if you have if your A1C, your blood glucose is pre-diabetic or
Yeah, I mean,
type 2
obviously, then
diabetic,
it's never going to suit
not
that.
recommended.
No,
No.
definitely
But some
not.
dark chocolate, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But people, if they want to lose weight, like, and get serious about their health, okay, it's not just about losing weight. You can lose weight eating McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
It's about their health. If you want to lose weight and get healthier, you're gonna have to do some cooking, some kind of prep work. Even if you buy a
Mm-hmm.
bag salad, that's fine. So that's something I think people need to resign themselves to a little bit. You're gonna have to step in to the kitchen, those that
Mm-hmm.
don't cook. But there's things that make it easy. You can get as bag salad. You can buy a rotisserie chicken. Um, you can make things like that work for you. Sandwiches are great.
Mm-hmm.
Bulk do stuff, spend a bit of time on the weekend.
Yeah.
But, I think people see someone that's lost a lot of weight and think, I'm going to do that. But you also have to take into consideration budget, because things like, and I'm not knocking these diets, but things like keto and paleo, they can be quite expensive.
Mm.
So, for people, yeah, they might be able to do it for a while, but I don't think if you're on a really tight budget, I don't think that's sustainable.
And
Do
also, I
you?
think when you look at someone else doing this and you suddenly have this spark of going, I'm going to do that, that's probably coming from a place that you want a quick fix. Because you're like, well,
Yes.
that would get it
Mhm.
sorted for me and that would be then sorted. That's not going to resolve your health issues and make you feel better long term, because it's not going to be a quick fix. As you say, is
No.
it something you can afford to do? Is it something you can really stick to for a long period of time? Because does it suit your lifestyle? Does it suit what you like to eat? All of that stuff. So I think that's where you've got to get really real with yourself and take a step
Mhm.
back and go, okay, what I'm really saying is I want the result that they've got. I want the result of having lost weight or
Right.
feeling healthier. I don't really want their diet plan or their, suggestion of the way to eat, because I don't
Mhm.
actually really want to eat like that. But what I'm really, really hankering after is to be
The
in that situation,
results.
in that situation where
Yeah.
I've lost the weight. So what you've got to do is just have a really honest chat with yourself and go, are
Mhm.
you prepared to wait? Because this is not going to happen in 4 weeks.
No
This is
matter what diet you're on.
It doesn't matter. And all right, they
No.
might claim it's like this instant weight loss, which it can come off really, really quick if you go on
Especially at the
certain,
beginning.
different things. However, how long are you really going to be able to hold on for that, to eat like that
Is it
for? It's
sustainable?
not going to work.
Mm.
So I think there's an honesty around personalization of your food and your diet and your
Mhm.
lifestyle, because if you're really, really honest, there's the honesty about why you've gained weight to start with,
Yep.
the foods that you've been eating and the approach to food that you've had. And I've talked about really honestly about my approach to binging,
Mhm.
which flared up back over the beginning of this year, and I've now got back under control again. But until you can get to the point of saying, what is it that's making me overweight to start with, you can't then start to create the personalization of the adjustment afterwards, because you're just kidding yourself. You're like, oh, I don't
It's just
know.
going to be
I don't
go
really know
round and
why.
round and
Yeah.
round.
So
Yeah.
I think you've got to do that. Then you've got to be honest about this new thing that you're seeing that you think, oh, I'm going to do that. Then it's not the plan that you really want to do, it's the result. So if you can strip all that or back away, you can then get to the actual base of, how do I know within myself, how do I like to eat, as in timings,
Mhm.
type of food, how long am I prepared to cook? Because as you say, you are going to have to do some cooking, but am I someone that's prepared to spend quite a lot of time, or do I want it to be fairly, quick and easy? What happens, which I've written this down about me, what happens when I'm not prepped? So when I haven't got the food in the house that I know that I can eat, and actually I enjoy eating, but when I'm not prepped, what happens? So I know how that then affects my eating pattern. So I think if you can be honest with yourself, and like we just talked before we started recording about the fact that you had something that you liked to eat yesterday, but it didn't agree with your body. And so it's
Mhm.
that conversation of saying, I really enjoyed it when I ate it, but I didn't enjoy how I felt afterwards.
Mhm.
So being really honest about those things, I'm going to have to be prepared to give some things up.
And
because
listening to your body. How do things make
it doesn't
you
make me feel
feel?
very well. Yeah, exactly.
No.
So as much as you might be disappointed, are you really? Because do you really enjoy feeling like that afterwards? No, of
Yeah,
course you.
no, it's not
So
good.
I think honesty is like the cornerstone to this. And that if you can
Hmm.
then start from that point, you can then create this little spider web of adding all of these things in to personalize what and how you're then going to
Right.
create a lifestyle for you. But so within your personalization, if we're then going to sort of make a bit of a starting point, what are the things that you've learned that you need to take away, for example, and then the things that you know that you can add in?
My thing, I was testing a recipe yesterday and lovely. Ham, corn, and cheese and chive waffles, they were.
Mm.
And so I was testing it. I had to try it. And they
Hmm.
were nice and crispy and hot. Put maple syrup on them. Yummy.
Mm.
But as I do, I ate too many.
Hmm.
So, I could have just had our taste, but I didn't. I ate 2 squares, which I guess is like half, a
Yeah,
full
but
size waffle. Oh gosh, I got such a tummy ache,
and that's because you've
from it,
got a
just the
gluten, do you
gluten.
think? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Because when I, have a sandwich, I make my own bread and it's
yeah.
gluten
So it's
free.
okay.
Yeah. But I mean, that doesn't always happen. And if I have a little bit, it doesn't. So it's just listening to my body. And I know that, but because I hadn't had any for a while, I suddenly just thought, oh, God, I feel good. And then I was like,
Realize what it was. Yeah.
realized what it was. So yeah. Um, people, I also suggest people, if they haven't been to their doctor for a while for a checkup before they start doing this, that they go and just get their
Hmm.
blood sugar levels checked and, the whole triglyceride, cholesterol type thing. Just to see, because if they are pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and they don't want to go on drugs, which hopefully, you can manage it,
That's it.
exercise and
Yeah.
diet, then, you might have to avoid some things for a while, or at least, cut way back on them, like, rice and breads, pastas,
Hmm.
things like that. Doesn't mean you can't ever have them again, but just initially just being mindful of the
Smaller
carbs
amounts. Yeah.
and smaller amounts, and having, maybe different carbs like beans, if you can eat them or if you like them, not
Hmm.
green beans. I'm talking, lentils,
Yeah.
cannellini beans, things like that, because you can make a really good mash with things like cannellini beans, the
Hmm.
white ones, and just, whiz them up with a bit of stock or a little parmesan or something like that,
Yeah.
and make like a delicious mash.
Mhm.
So, just, and it's also maybe thinking a little bit differently too,
Yeah.
doing what we've said before, Sarah, about how, collecting recipes, like, oh, I like
Yeah.
that recipe.
Hmm.
And then, maybe making some tweaks in it, things, and that will be trial and error, because if you see that something has cream in it and you like the sound of the recipe, but you think, oh, I don't want to have cream, and so you put like milk in it, that they
Hmm.
don't, and you're boiling it, then it's going to split,
It's not
so
going
it's
to
just stuff
work.
like that.
Yeah.
It's like trial and error type thing. Obviously, if you don't like to eat meat, you're probably not going to choose like
No,
keto or paleo diet, because it
exactly.
is it is very heavy on protein. It's also about turning down the noise, I think, that all the information out there.
Hmm.
For me, I'm not a huge breakfast eater unless it's like a pastry and a coffee, but
Hmm.
I don't do that. People say before you work out, because I work out first thing in the morning, before you work out, you should have some protein before then. Well, I can't eat and work out. I just feel yuck when I
Yeah.
do it. My best thing that I do in the morning is my vegetable juice,
Hmm.
because
That suits
it's
you, doesn't it?
it's
Yeah.
it suits me. It hydrates me, and I just feel like I come alive after it. I don't get the jitters. If I have something too sweet in the morning, I can feel that my blood sugar
Sorry.
has gone up.
Fly was dive bombing at my head. Sorry about that to distract you in mid conversation.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
so yeah, so I tend to, I don't know, I just find that I can't do a big heavy breakfast. I
Hmm.
tend to have my biggest meal in the middle of the day, really.
Yeah.
Depends what I'm doing, but
See,
generally
what I
so.
sometimes do is I get up and, you know, I don't have breakfast straight away anyway. But when it does get to breakfast point, I sometimes get this complete like blank and think, I just don't know what to eat. I don't know what to have. As in, there's
Right,
so many blooming options. And I'm like, but what do I fancy? And really, I'm trying not to have too much bread because it doesn't make me feel great if I have too much. And
right.
so, and then you're like, now I feel a bit stuck. You know, what am I going to have? And so I think
Huh,
sometimes that happens to me. I just get like this big sort of void in front and think,
right.
what am I going to have? So that's
Is it like a
where
little sort of overwhelm?
probably, yeah. And then you just think,
Uh,
oh, again, there's so many, so many differing advice about what to have or not have. And so I think that's where a bit of prep comes in as well. So if
mhm,
I've made a decision, I don't have to be overwhelmed. I don't have to think about it because it's already
right.
been planned for. So that helps. But and I don't know about you, but different days I feel a bit different. So sometimes I feel
Mhm.
really, really hungry, and sometimes I can go for it
Just
ages and not want anything to eat.
right.
Um, and
Doesn't
I
happen
think there's
very
something.
often. For me anyway, it doesn't.
Sometimes it does, but then what happens is I know that I always get hungry at 4 o'clock, always. So
Right,
again, if you know that about yourself, whatever time of the day that is for people, maybe get a bit prepared for that and do what suits for you. So maybe don't eat as early so you can save some of the food that you would have eaten and have it a bit, you know, around that sort of time, or have some
right.
things made that are a healthy snack rather than it being something you're just going to turn to because you're starving and it's quick. So those are the things I think to learn about yourself as well, isn't it? It's going, know when
Mm,
your times are that you know that you get hungry, know how your eating behaviors are when you haven't got something to hand and what the sort of thing you turn to, so to have something prepared. And to be so rigid sometimes I think is difficult, isn't it? So if you
yeah.
are following a plan, you think, well, I'm not allowed that. You think, well, not allowed says who? You know,
Right,
it's that
right.
whole,
It's your plan.
it's your plan, your
Yeah,
body, your health, you
yeah,
know. So if you want a little bit of something, well, then have it. But that's the thing. If you know within yourself that it's going to trigger you to then want, like you said, you didn't have just one small bit of waffle, you then had more than
yeah,
you ideally wanted. There's nothing wrong in saying, well, I won't have it at all. Different because you had to taste it for your work.
right.
But you know, as
So
in,
like a bite.
yeah, exactly. But you know, if you know that eating a biscuit is going to set you off because there's a whole packet there, maybe just don't have it,
Don't, yeah,
because you know it's never going to be a good for anyone eating a whole packet of
yeah.
them, which is what I could easily do.
So it's like the fly has come through the
Have
screen
you
into
now
my
got one?
office. I have one now.
Oh,
Mm.
honestly, it is buzzing around in here like mad.
Well, one of
Crazy.
this is one of my favorite lunches is so the English I think do lunch so well. They really do. I love Plowman's lunch, which if
Oh,
anybody
me
has never been
too.
to England doesn't know what it is. You know, it's a plate that it could have like a Scotch egg on it, which is an egg that's coated in meat and then breaded and then fried. Or, you know, just egg, you know, some cold cuts like ham or something,
Hmm.
cheese, maybe pickled onions, or chutney,
Chutney. Hmm.
and a little salad, and usually a slice of bread, something like that,
Yep.
and then there's varying degrees. Oh, it's one of my favorite
My
things to have
mouth
for
is
lunch.
actually watering now.
Right.
I love a
Especially
salmon.
because, I'll roast, this time of year, tomatoes are plentiful. So I roast a whole lot of tomatoes off and,
Hmm.
has some ham or something, eggs or some sort of protein. I usually cook a batch of eggs and eat on those during the week. And then I just get mixed salad leaves, soak them in some water in the morning because I know I'm going to
Hmm.
put them in a salad, olive oil, balsamic, that's it, dressing done.
Yeah.
And then it's some fruit, there's often like an apple is one thing that
Apple
I
or
know is quite
grapes. Yep.
popular, or grapes, a nice chunk of cheese. Sometimes I put olives, sometimes I'll make it a little Mediterranean, do like hummus with cucumber, radishes, cheese, what else? Anchovies.
Oh,
Everybody's going, "Rah."
man.
Yeah. Or I might add a piece of toast with avocado on it and some
Hmm.
tuna salad or something just for the extra protein. But yeah, that's I think just a really good thing to have for lunch is a little
Mm.
plate of nibbly, snacky things like that. And then, some, like I said, some fruit. But
Yeah.
that's a good idea for people. And it doesn't involve at that time me cooking anything because I have stuff already done.
Yeah.
It takes 5
quick and
minutes. Just
easy.
throw it
Yeah, that's
together, which is
definitely
good when you're
something that makes a difference, isn't
starving.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And then another thing that I do for my diet is I try not to eat too late because I find it really affects my sleep
Mm-hmm.
as my body is digesting things, and your blood sugar levels go up, your insulin levels go up as you're digesting food. They're
Mm-hmm.
meant to. But if they can spike up too much, it can make you very restless and not have
Mm-hmm.
a good sleep. So I try and eat earlier, um, just to help that. So
Yeah.
that's something for people to think about too. And also, I think for people cooking for others, see, I'm lucky in that, unless I'm working, I can cook whatever I like.
Mm.
I'm not necessarily cooking for other people, but I think if you're cooking for like a partner or kids or something like that, rather than having to make all separate meals, it's good if you can somehow tie it in
Mm-hmm.
with
I think
that.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think because it is a nightmare trying to do 4 different things. It's just
Right.
overwhelming. The other thing I think is worth remembering is what your aim is with the food that you're eating, because the food is the fuel and it's going to enable your body to do different things. So within that, I was thinking, are you trying to lose some weight? So are you trying to remove some fat from your body? Are
Right.
you really concentrating on strength training? Because actually there's some different foods that you can eat that will then benefit that. People that do distance exercise, you need to then think about what consumption of food you
Mm-hmm.
have and the type and the timing of it.
Carbohydrates. Yeah.
And then people that have been ill, so in a recovery situation from
Yeah.
being even just a mild cold, you really need to really look after yourself, making sure you get enough vitamin C in, all that sort of thing. So I think that's a really good thing to think about is what's your goal? What are you aiming for? And then tailor what you're eating around that. And that might change as
Mm-hmm.
as you move on. Maybe the first thing you are concentrating on is weight loss. And then maybe the next thing might be if you want to do some different sorts of exercise, the food might be different. So, and I know that with my son, I have to change his food when he's going to be
Mm-hmm.
competing or not. So again, it's not once you've decided this is it sorted, is it? I think you've got to be flexible enough to think about what you're aiming for right now and then making sure that you eat to serve that. And then remember that when you then have these moments of binging or craving for sweet things, how is that going to serve you against your goal? All right, you could have a little bit and it's absolutely fine, but if you eat lots and lots of it, how is that serving? So that's where you've got to tailor
Right.
things as well. So and you don't
I
have to
might.
deprive everything out like we've said before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you know that
You
if
just want to make sure the actions and the plan are aligned.
exactly.
It's a
You know
big
the
thing.
guy James Smith, do you know him? He's the fitness
Yeah.
coach
Mm-hmm.
guy. And he's a big advocate. He loves almond croissants and he's like, you know what, I lose weight still and still have an almond croissant in the morning because he factors that into his whole day.
Right.
It's his preference. He loves eating those. He would rather than not have something else later because he's had that
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. And that's it. It's about choice, flexibility, curating it, crafting it for
Yeah.
yourself. And don't be
Keep.
beholden to other people saying you can't have that. Of course you
Right.
can.
That's
You
the
can have
thing.
whatever you want, but just think about
Yeah.
how does the whole plan look, not
Yeah.
each thing that you're eating in isolation. Because if you are trying to have a goal of any one of those things, weight loss, strength training, long-term distance running, you need to then eat accordingly because
Yeah.
your body is going to react to what you're putting in.
But keeping it simple, I think, is the biggest thing too, and not feeling like you need to do everything all at once. Like you don't need to eat every vegetable
Mm-hmm.
all in one sitting. Just look at it over the course of a week. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what, before somebody, you know, dived into
Dived.
this,
Yeah.
I would suggest that they do some mindfulness and practice that for a week, the triggers, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But so these is just a few things that I put together that a healthy plan is good if you can include these things,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Just some common factors in most of them. That protein is prioritized and
Mm-hmm.
other essential nutrients. So, your vegetables, fruits, um, includes high nutrition and fiber-filled carbs. So, oats if you want to eat oats, but and legumes, because they're classified as a vegetable. I don't know why, because really they're a carb. So, but anyway, but you don't even need much of them, half a cup.
Yeah.
A little bit of fat there for
Mm-hmm.
just the flavor, and not to restrict calories for an extended period of time, because otherwise you're just going to binge.
Mm-hmm.
Limits or eliminates ultra processed foods. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, is so important. It has to be food that you enjoy. But having said that, it's good to step out of your comfort zone a bit too, and try new things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little saying that make smart goals. These are specific, measurable, achievable,
Yeah.
relevant, and time-based. And just make small individual steps that you can commit to over like the course of your life,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Really. So,
Yeah, I think so. And I think just and start that with that honesty conversation with yourself of just
yes,
saying, what is the problem and what can I know that I can then do long term going forward, and
right.
then craft that around that, because it's
Yeah.
just totally unrealistic to suddenly pluck something out of the air and go, I'll do that, when you know full well really that's
Uh-huh.
you're not going to stick to it. But all of those things, if you can keep them in mind, and then I would sort of probably add into that is like you said, but keeping it simple, really pare everything back. So,
Mm-hmm.
a salad doesn't have to be this mound on your
Oh God.
plate. It can,
Oh,
do you know what I mean? When you sort of see a size of a salad, sometimes you just
yeah.
sort of think it almost puts
Doesn't
you
have to have
off.
20 ingredients in it.
No, just something like a really simple green salad is enough. And
Yeah.
so yeah, make it really, really simple, pare it back. I would say
I'll
that that's
share a
probably a good
salad
tip.
that I made yesterday with rocket, arugula, it's called here, from
Mm-hmm.
the garden, tomatoes from the garden, and then some crispy prosciutto. I had a whole lot of little mozzarella balls, and I just made a lemon pesto dressing. It was so
Mm-hmm.
simple, but it was really good. So that
Sounds
could be a side
delicious.
salad, or I'll share it on the website. But yeah, just keep it simple. What are
Mm-hmm.
we going to do for our challenge for the coming
So
week,
I
Sarah?
think then, bringing all that together, I think let's have a challenge or a goal of spending, let's say 15 minutes. That's not rigid, but thinking about the way that you eat is your starting point. So that really getting honest with yourself, that part of that conversation. Note down what suits you and what doesn't. So I mean that by timings, types of food, all of that sort of stuff. Then make a plan for yourself about what foods you're going to buy in, what meals you're going to have. So you just have a bit of something to then give you something to focus on, so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. It doesn't feel this
Yeah.
big lofty goal. And then maybe even do some food prep as well, meal prep for the
Mm-hmm.
week. So if you've got
Even
a bit
if
of
it's just
time,
cooking some eggs,
yeah, just
or
get
throwing
something
some chicken
ready.
in the air fryer or the oven or whatever, and just having
Mm-hmm.
it there, roasting some peppers or something,
So I think really that's the goal, that's the challenge. Spend that time thinking about what works, making a plan, but most importantly, making it personal and work for you. So this isn't
Yeah.
something that you've seen someone else doing and think, well, I'll just do that. Maybe some elements of it sound good for you that will work, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you're just going to try and do a straightforward copy of somebody else.
And it also doesn't cost anything. That's a nice thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Next week is the complaining episode, which isn't what it sounds like, but that would be a fun one to do. Just like a
Shall
whole
we?
episode complain. We should do that. Just complain about things that piss us off. Anyway.
We could have double episode of that.
But we all complain. We complain to each other. We complain internally. When you complain, something is magnified. Not complaining can greatly elevate your mood, bring you peace, and attract more positivity into your life. And it's amazing when you do this, how much you realize you
Mm-hmm.
complain.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
I know.
I did a 24-hour challenge of not complaining.
Did you?
And yeah, it was hard
You
because
can
you'd be
fill us
like,
in next week.
back sore. Yeah. Um, can you go 24 hours without complaining? Join us to find out how to stop complaining. If you head to lovoniandsarah.com, you'll find posts for all past episodes, recipes, and helpful information. See the show notes below to connect with us on various podcast platforms. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. And social media. Please follow and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next week, bye for now.